We're going to talk today about gratitude as well as appreciation. And I want to begin with yet another story or example from my childhood. I grew up, my mother was an artist, and she did textiles and weavings and quilts and all sorts of different art that she created with her hands. Now, I was a little flippant, so she graduated in 1948 with an undergrad degree, and then in 1978 went back and got a master's in art. And I used to joke that she had a master's in macrame, which, kind of funny in the 70s, but really diminishes the power of the artwork that she created in textiles and in fabrics. And she taught me the power of the loom. And in this video, you can just beautifully see, my mother had a loom, and she would weave, and she taught me the distinctions of the warp and the woof. Now, the warp are the long white strings that you see there, and those are the foundation for a tapestry. That's what gets strung on the loom before the artist then begins to put the shorter strings that go across that bring the depth and the color and the texture. But only by having the two come together under the hands of an artful designer are you able to have a tapestry. And so as we look at today, looking at gratitude and appreciation, I love that idea of gratitude and appreciation coming together. I love this quote from William Arthur Ward. I was joking with Alan Klein, our resident motivational speaker. William Arthur Ward was a motivational writer. I'd never even heard that phrase today. But before I did the research for today's talk, but he said, feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. So when we feel gratitude in our hearts, but we don't express it to the person who we are grateful to, we're holding on to that gift rather than sharing that gift. And only by bringing the gratitude that we feel with an act of appreciation, that's the external part, only by expressing it are we able to then have the beauty of that tapestry. Gratitude and appreciation are terms that are often used interchangeably, but there are distinct nuances that differentiate them. As I said before, gratitude is that internal reflection, while appreciation is the external expression that focuses the value on other people. So taking on an attitude of gratitude becomes the foundation, becomes the outlook. If you will, it becomes the warp of the tapestry that you are building. I attend 2 or 3 times a week. I do an early morning 12-step meeting. It's 7 o'clock on the East Coast, so it's 4 o'clock here on the West Coast. But if I wake up early enough, and I did it this morning, I love to start my day with this 30-minute 12-step meeting. And it's a prayer and meditation meeting. We meditate for 5 minutes, then we have 25 minutes that people just share a prayer. And my prayer quite often is based very simply on please and thank you. Thank you, and I acknowledge some of the things for which I have gratitude from the day before. And then please, may I come to know today what you would have me do, and that I have the strength and power to carry that out. And so that becomes that warp for me. And if you can embrace gratitude in this way, it really helps you transform, as one of my friends likes to say, Mike Robbins, transform why is this happening to me into why is this happening for me. As soon as I shift that little preposition from to me to for me, I move from how sad everything is to what can I be grateful for. Even in the midst of this, what gratitude can I express? Now, I want to acknowledge there is some really solid and impressive science behind the science of gratitude. I have a document that I used in preparation for this. I'm happy to share. I'll give you a QR code later that you can get it from me. But the researchers who have focused on researching the science of gratitude often call it the upstream regulator. So if you can begin your day, or if you can begin a challenging meeting or a difficult situation, before you ever get into that conversation, if you can start with what it is that you're grateful for, whether that's internal or whether you even express that to the other person. Ken had us do a great exercise last week where we thought of somebody we had to have a difficult conversation with, and how could we enter that with a mindset of curiosity, and I would say also with a mindset of gratitude. Even when I have to have a tough conversation with somebody, if I say, I appreciate you taking time that we could sit down and talk about this, like beginning with that sense of gratitude. I've got a short video that I found in the preparation of today's talk that I want to share with you. It's 2 minutes long, but it goes into the science of gratitude. And so let me play that for you now.
Of gratitude, simply expressing appreciation and being more thankful can measurably improve your overall well-being. For example, studies prove that gratitude can increase happiness, reduce depression, and strengthen resiliency. Grateful people often experience reduced blood pressure, less chronic pain, increased energy, even longer lives. People who purposefully express more gratitude report higher self-esteem than those who don't, and they're more likely to help others, a pro-social behavior also linked to greater happiness. People who capture grateful thoughts before bed sleep better than those who don't. Why so many positive changes? Because gratitude actually rewires our brains, kickstarting the production of dopamine and serotonin. Like antidepressants, these feel-good neurotransmitters activate the bliss center of the brain, creating feelings of happiness and contentment. This appears to be self-perpetuating. Research suggests that with regular practice, you'll train your prefrontal cortex to better appreciate and retain positive experiences and thoughts, and to deflect the negative ones. Here are a few simple ways to deliberately cultivate that attitude of gratitude. Celebrate minor accomplishments. Think about what you have rather than dwelling on what you don't. Tell the people in your life something you appreciate about them. Tell yourself too. Volunteer, hold a door for a stranger, or simply smile more, and you'll probably feel better, as kindness and giving are connected to gratitude. Similar positive brain changes can occur from regular meditation and mindfulness. Keep a daily gratitude journal using an old-fashioned notebook or a high-tech app. The science is clear. Give gratitude a go. You'll be thankful.
So the science is clear. If you want to live longer, if you want to sleep better, if you want to have better well-being, you have the capacity right now, and it's just by engaging with that sense of gratitude. This is not like, remember the Saturday Night Live, Stuart Smalley, Deep Thoughts. This is not this like touchy-feely, mumbo-jumbo. There literally is chemical changes that happen in your body when you begin with that sense of gratitude. What happens chemically is that our brain, if we register authentic gratitude, okay, so that you can't do this performative. You can't do this, just check the list that you did that as, I brushed my teeth, I expressed my gratitude. No, you literally have to have that authentic experience. The dopamine then rises in our body to create motivation, and the serotonin contributes to our emotional steadiness. And then cortisol, which is the chemical that makes us anxious or fearful, cortisol dips in this moment, and it drops from being fearful of something bad that's going to happen to literally being a stabilizing agent in our nervous system. That's what happens if you can have that experience of authentic gratitude. It's not abstract, but there are measurable changes with direct implications for our mood, our focus, our resilience, and our long-term health. And at the very least, if you can just begin even with a pause, when you have a stimulus that irritates you or annoys you, when you see an email in your inbox, like, oh, I hate it when I hear from her. You see somebody's car parked outside of work or out of a meeting, it's like, oh, he's here again today. Why did I come to work on the day that he decided? All of that negative energy, if you can just pause. Even just the power of the pause allows you to step into that world of gratitude. So we've talked about the tapestry of gratitude and appreciation. We've talked about the science of gratitude. Now what I want to do is I want to talk about the power of appreciation. I love this quote from Voltaire. Appreciation is a wonderful thing. It makes what's excellent in others belong to us as well. As I acknowledge the music that Callie performed and the music that Carrie performed, as I give them that acknowledgement and thanks for what they brought forward, I get to own a little bit of that music. As I do that with Bruno and the art that he has such integrity in our slides and in our visuals, as I look at what Ryan and Efren and Lorenzo do in terms of the sound and the sound quality and the video quality for our friends on live stream, or if you're watching this hours or days or weeks later on video, it's all because this team of people have brought their talents into the room so that those of us who are in the room or are experiencing it virtually can have that experience. And the same thing that we have with Evan and with Zachary and with Art in terms of what you bring forward with your talents. As I appreciate that, I get to own a little bit of that. I cannot touch a keyboard and make music. I can make noise, but I can't touch music, but I can appreciate what they bring forward in someone else. And as Rev Ken often says, what you appreciate, appreciates. My best experience of appreciation was in real estate. Okay, in 1997, I bought an apartment in the East Village, $125,000. The most amount of money I had ever been in debt. Yeah, people who know New York real estate are like, yeah, this had to be more than 30 years ago. $125,000, the deepest I'd ever gone into debt. I hadn't yet accumulated my student loan debt. 6 years later, I sold that $125,000 garden apartment for $300,000. The most I've ever made on an investment in terms of percentage. And then when Ken and I moved to San Francisco, we lived in a rental apartment for a few years. We bought our first home, $600,000. And when we sold it 10 years later, it was $1.6 million. And we're beginning to see the appreciation of our real estate in Marin. And we as a community here are seeing the appreciation of this space as we appreciate it, as we add AV to it, as we recarpet it, as we level the floors, we add chandeliers, as we add bathrooms, as we renovate bathrooms downstairs. All of that appreciation of our building allows our building to appreciate. But it's not just in financial terms. It's what you look at in your life and you appreciate. When you appreciate it, it appreciates. You begin to have more of that. Tyler mentioned that last Sunday was our 18-year wedding anniversary, and we invited my pastor from Most Holy Redeemer, the Catholic church that I belong to join us here at the end of service, and he did a blessing of our marriage and a recommitment of our marriage vows. Sidebar, Catholic priests cannot yet perform gay marriage. The Catholic Church is a little slow to come to think. It took them 500 years to acknowledge that Galileo was right. We have to give them a little bit of time to catch up to where the rest of the world. But Catholic priests can bless a gay marriage. And so we invited Father Matt to come here and bless our marriage. And Ken said, please, just use one of our existing anniversaries. Don't give me a fourth date to forget. So we've had 3 weddings so far. So we took one of those anniversaries and we asked Father Matt to bless our marriage. But part of why that was so important to me wasn't just that my faith and Ken's faith came together in that ceremony, but I so appreciate Ken. And in 18 years, those of you who have been married, you understand it takes work on both sides, but I know I have brought challenges and difficulties and annoyances into our marriage, and he has stuck with it and has been a font of forgiveness for me. And so when we recommitted our vows, it was that chance for me to say, I appreciate you. And as I appreciate him, our love and our relationship appreciates. And as he read his vows to me, we had the same experience. In fact, a few of you were able to join us and listen to it. And in his vows, he used the word unapologetic. I was like, wow, I don't remember that being in our ceremony 18 years ago. It's like, yeah, I changed it for the book. I wanted it to sound better with the title of the book. I was like, oh, so our vows are a living, breathing document. Okay, I can be with that. But it was that chance to appreciate and have more of what it is that I am appreciating. A very simple example of this, Roma wanted to get a new suitcase. She said, my suitcase is too old. I'm tired of it. I want a new suitcase for our travel this winter. And so I went with her to Target, and we bought a bigger new purple suitcase for her, and she was ready to get rid of the old one. She said, can you give it to Goodwill? I said, you know what? If I give it to Goodwill, it's not as much of a contribution. Let's give it to the foster care agency, because when a foster child moves from one family to another, our oldest son, Toby, did that 23 times, they usually put their stuff in garbage bags. And that's how they move from one family to another. I said, let's take it to the foster care agency. And as soon as I said that, she said, I think I've got a backpack we can put with it. So she put a backpack with it, and then Joshua didn't know that he had extra backpacks, but we got a couple of them out of his closet. And then Toby got some duffels, and I went, all of a sudden, we had like 15 pieces of luggage that we could give, because what we appreciated, it was all inside our home, but we weren't using it. Appreciate. Now, the flip side of this is also true. The slide you saw a moment ago, what you depreciate also depreciates. Physical example of this, several years ago, I bought a Lexus, and within the first few days that I had it, I went to pick up Toby from work, and he had a friend who wanted to ride home. They both had gym bags and computer bags, and I had car seats in the back seat and everything. I did not have room to take these two high school kids home that day from work. It's like, I got too small of a car. Drove back out to the dealership at CarMax, and I said, I made a mistake. I got too small of a car. Now, this was past the 3 days when you can change your mind about a deal in California. That car had depreciated $3,000 by me just driving it off the lot and driving it around for a week. So what I depreciate also depreciates. And this can happen in our mindset. If we think something is going to be a really bad experience, before we walk into it, we're already depreciating it. And sure enough, we walk in and it is a bad experience, because we predicted it was going to be bad. We depreciated it before we got there. The example I gave you a few minutes ago about you see somebody's car in the parking lot, or you see somebody's name in your email, or you see somebody's text or name come up on your phone, and you have this immediate negative reaction. You are depreciating that relationship. And as you step into that conversation, it often has then depreciated even before you started speaking. And so just as we can appreciate, we can depreciate. So if this is all in the power of my mind, choose to take something on that allows it to go better. Choose to believe that the universe is conspiring to make things better for you rather than to make things worse for you. One more story. I was listening to a podcast the other day as I drove home to Marin by Lisa Solomon, a friend of mine from Stanford, and she was interviewing another friend of mine, Dan Klein, and I just was loving the podcast. And like 10 minutes into it, I'm like, I miss those guys. I wish I hadn't lost my job at Stanford. I wish I got to see them regularly. Man, I really regret. And I went into this spiral all by myself in the car, into this spiral of negative energy off of this really cool podcast by two of my friends. Now, I caught myself, said, whoa, what am I doing? I don't think I used the name, I don't think I said depreciate, but why am I going here with this awesome podcast? Yeah, I don't work at Stanford anymore, but they're one of my biggest clients. I'm down there 2 or 3 times a week. Let me reach out to Dan and Lisa. So I reached out to Dan and Lisa and said, hey, I'm going to be there the Friday morning before Thanksgiving. Can we all get together and do lunch? They both wrote back and said, oh, I'm off campus that day. I'm already traveling with my family. I'd love to do it on another day. But I was already now in this appreciative cycling up. So I thought, well, what about Bert and Allison and Matt? Like, we text each other all the time. Wonder if they would join me for lunch. So I reached out. All 3 of them were available. We had all taught together in the communication program I created at the business school. We set 1 o'clock as the time, and instead of meeting in the dining hall at Stanford, I got us reservations for 4 at Rosewood, which is kind of a fancy little place to have lunch, and brought them a little gift and a little card. And we had this remarkable lunch, and we all said, why don't we do this more often? At the end of the lunch, we're walking out to the parking lot to get our cars, and Matt goes, oh, wait, let's get a picture. Let's get a picture. So we're figuring out where to stand and get the picture and to get one of the valets to take the photo for us. And walking out of the hotel is a 4th friend of ours, Raymond, who we didn't invite to lunch. We're like, come get in the picture. We haven't seen you. And we all connected in the driveway there. Because what you appreciate appreciates. Raymond was the bonus to the lunch with the 3 that was the replacement for the lunch with the 2, but I was in a mindset of appreciation rather than a mindset of depreciation. And that's the benefit of being able to do this. So let me give you a few actions that you can take on. A few of these were in the video that we saw a moment ago. A few of them you have heard me talk about before. But let me give you a few actions that you can take to help keep these present. I love the quote by Mark Twain, to get the full value of joy, you must have someone to divide it with. To get the full value of joy, you can't hold on to it. You gotta have somebody that you break it apart and share it with. So here are some ways that you can share that. Begin or end each day with a gratitude list. I don't do it 7 days a week, but more days than not, in my phone, I will do a gratitude list of 10 things that I'm grateful for. And then I'll text it either to my friend Molly or to my friend Joseph and just say, this is what I'm grateful for today. And sometimes they'll write back, sometimes they won't, but it just allows me to begin with a sense of gratitude. What I do at the end of the day in my calendar, I look at all of the appointments I've had, everything I've had, and I write down at the bottom of my calendar 1 or 2 wins from the day. Even if it's a tough, rough, difficult day, there's got to be 1 or 2 things that I can share and that I can write down. And I love, I love the power of handwritten notes. The science shows that if you handwrite, certainly some people prefer typing, especially millennials that are out there in the audience, but if you handwrite, actually muscle memory kicks in and you experience the gratitude better by handwriting it. And it's also such a gift to the other person if they can read your writing when they receive that card. I want you to just reflect on what it is that you are grateful for, the people, the items, the experiences, the characters, the qualities. What is it that you are grateful for?